No, I'm not English. Why?
No, because you, you are pretty.
Hollywood loves taking risks and pushing limits, particularly in filmmaking. However, what happens when a musical that was meant to be groundbreaking ends up becoming a mess? The movie is none other than Emilia Perez. Labeled as a musical crime thriller and a social drama, it has an Oscar to its name. Hold on a second. Does it genuinely deserve the Oscar? Or is this just Hollywood's way of patting itself on the back for trying something daring? Let's take a closer look and also explore the real story of the movie. So here's the thing. The Oscars and musical films have had a roller coaster relationship over the years. While some musicals have made it to the top, others have flopped spectacularly. Classics like The Sound of Music, West Side Story, The Greatest Showman, and Chicago have proven that the Academy can recognize talent in this genre. However, lurking in the shadows are the misfires, like Cats, reminding us that not all musical productions deserve the accolades they receive. Some deserve a restraining order. Harsh, right? Well, that's the truth. So, what's the problem with Oscars and musicals? Well, we need to understand that musicals are always divisive and usually demand what we like to call an over-the-top spectacle. That means they require actors who can sing and not just act. Still, somehow, Hollywood directors always forget that. So they, with little music knowledge, create scenes where actors magically jump into a song. Sometimes, this can be very disturbing, but it can also be magical if done right. However, one of the movies that we can't consider magical is Emilia Perez. To give you a quick summary of the movie, it's about a feared Mexican cartel leader who fakes his death and then undergoes a gender-affirming surgery, and when he finally emerges as a woman named Emilia Perez. Now here's the catch. After he emerges as a woman, somehow, he takes on this mantra of new me, and everyone seems to forget that this same person was a terrible beast who murdered many people for no good reason. Yeah, you're probably thinking, it sounds like a telenovela series on steroids, doesn't it? Well, unfortunately, it's not. The Hollywood elites considered this movie so good that it won an Oscar. The film was directed by none other than Jacques Audiard. If the summary sounds bizarre, let's do a quick rundown of the narrative. The narrative begins with Juan Manitas del Monte, a notorious cartel lord. He deals with all the bad things you can think of: drugs, women, mistreatment, and all that. But despite all these, Juan is battling with gender dysphoria, and someday, he decides to take an action that will change the course of his life. So he goes out and kidnaps Rita, who is a lawyer, stuck in a dead-end job, and not being appreciated. After he kidnaps her, he then enlists her to help him plan his disappearance and also his transformation into Emilia Perez after the surgery. Emilia begins a new life and now becomes a philanthropist who helps families search for their lost loved ones. What an irony, coming from the same person who used to kidnap people, torture them, and then render them lifeless. If this does not scream over-the-top drama, what does it? The movie as a whole just gives off a telenovela vibe and a lot of moral dilemmas and melodrama that will make your abuela soap opera blush. However, that isn't all the movie is about. And if you thought the melodrama ended there, boy, oh boy, are you wrong? Just when you think the terrible drama is enough, Emilia Perez throws in cheesy musical numbers sung by people who couldn't even bother to learn the language they were singing. From the start of the movie until the end, the Mexicans complained that the movie misrepresented them and did not properly portray their language. Shortly after the characters engage with the Spanish language, they find themselves caught in a cartel shootout while delving into deep discussions about human identity and redemption. From the audience's perspective, it seems like the film can't quite decide on its direction, so it tries to be everything at once. However, you see, that is one thing that people hate to see. And when Emilia Perez decided to become a concoction of all the genres, it left the audience marveled and annoyed. It's one of those movies that, after you are done watching, You will need to sit back and ask yourself, what did I just watch? Now, let's discuss the music in Emilia Perez. We already know that the soundtrack usually makes or breaks the user experience in musicals. Everyone knows this. However, in Emilia Perez, the music seemed to sound like a lullaby rather than a showstopper. If this is what the director aimed, he nailed it. Most of the songs were composed by the French singer Camille, who collaborated with Clément Ducol. In essence, the songs in the movie seem like what should be in a Broadway musical, and as the plot of the stories progresses, it should shed light on the characters' journeys. While this is a good motive, the songs were not delivered properly. The tracks in the musical move from barely being sung to being actively terrible, plus it doesn't even nail and pinpoint its big and small moments, which would have left the audience feeling more spectacular. However, the choreography and energy are the worst part of the musical. First, the energy is virtually non-existent, and the choreography, although tastefully done, did not reflect the hard work the cast claimed to have put into it. When you watch musicals like The Greatest Showman, and then you watch Emilia Perez, you begin to feel like you have just wasted your precious time on the most terrible production ever. You may even need to go watch Wicked just to get your mind off the bad production that you just watched. One of the things that people love about musicals, the good ones, is that they will leave a beautiful symphony in your head, one that will have you humming for days. Unfortunately, almost all the songs on Emilia Perez are as forgettable as they are uninspired, and this is because their melodies lack the catchy hooks that reel viewers in and stand the test of time. One of the most cringe-worthy scenes is when Zoe Saldana's character begins singing about a gender-affirming operation with a doctor. You must have probably seen it, because the clip of this scene went viral, leading to a significant online controversy that made many question the accolades given to the movie. The cast of this musical includes Zoe Saldana, Selena Gomez, and Carla Sofia Gascon. Let's begin with Zoe Saldana. In the movie, she portrays Rita, a Mexican lawyer currently entangled in the chaotic world of a drug lord transformation. Everyone knows that Zoe is very talented, but in this movie, her performance seems like a telenovela caricature rather than the standard she is normally known for delivering. She attempts to portray an internal conflict, but it comes off as melodrama and lacks the subtlety usually seen in her other roles. It feels like she knows the script is absurd, so she is trying to outdo it, but then it just comes off as exhausting. Fortunately, she must have taken some Spanish lessons for her previous role, cause she gives an average delivery of the Spanish language used in the movie. Selena Gomez plays Maria, and the purpose of her character is as perplexing as the entire genre of the movie. Her performance has been rated to be quite average, but nowhere memorable. It feels like she is just reciting and delivering the lines without being attached to her character. Her performance is far from what is usually seen in award-winning musicals. Next is Carla Gascon. She takes on the role that makes people question the movie the most. Not only does her character badly portray the trans community, but her character, who portrays the cartel boss undergoing gender transition, makes everyone question if the cast had any idea about the Mexican culture that they were supposed to portray. There are some moments when she captures how vulnerable Emilia is. Even at that, these scenes are unfortunately overshadowed by scenes that transcend theatrical excess, making it very difficult for one to take the character's plight seriously. When we look at other musicals that have won the Oscars, such as Les Miserables or Chicago, we'll notice the disparities. In the musicals, as mentioned earlier, their main actresses, Anne Hathaway and Renée Zellweger, went the extra mile and delivered excellent performances that were both emotionally resonant and meticulously crafted, which went a long way in elevating the film's narratives. However, Emilia Perez's cast did not put in the same effort. It was as though they struggled with the script from the beginning to the end. They confused the audience as to the genre of the movie. Was it a crime thriller, a musical, or a social commentary? No one knows. But one thing that people do know is that the performance just feels disjointed and lacks a personal touch. So, how did they win an Oscar? Well, the truth is that the director knew exactly what he was doing. Even though he did not make the movie for the public, He crafted it specifically for the accolades of the elites of Hollywood. You know, those ones who enjoy a little portion of caviar sold to them at a ridiculously absurd price, which they will end up not having. The plot and the different genres blended into the narrative are simply focused on dazzling critics and award committees. However, the director knew that he could not do this and still meet the needs of the viewers, so he chose the path that would surely get him the Oscar. Nevertheless, the film was received with different opinions. While some critics were busy praising the ambition of the movie, others, such as Calcium Copper, stated that the aim of the musical is simply to dazzle with its hybridizing craft. In the end, it falls flat because the intriguing ideas, as well as the erratic style of the movie, slowly become superficial. It's safe to say, the film has a very powerful blend of musical numbers, thriller and crime elements, and a bit of social commentary. These different genres have left people divided. Some view it as a masterpiece, while others see it as an overambitious mess. Due to this divide, many people have begun to ask why this movie is even in the Oscar spotlight. Some people argue that it is just a reflection of Hollywood's current cultural climate, but overall, the film has faced a lot of criticism, mostly because of how it portrays Mexican culture and language. Many now see it as lacking the authenticity that such a movie should have, and people are enraged that Hollywood is not so far from Mexico. Still, somehow, some movies that portray the culture of the place always seem to get an award. Just imagine. The presenter stepped onto the stage, holding a shiny envelope, and announced Emilia Perez as the winner of the Best Picture award. This decision shocked everyone, even overshadowing films like Oppenheimer. The crowd gasped and murmured in surprise. Moments later, social media exploded with reactions, leaving many in disbelief. Some began to wonder if the Oscars had chosen this intentionally, knowing it would create controversy and spark discussions about the standards of cinematic excellence. All this begs the question, will the Oscars keep awarding mediocre movies? What do you think? Have you watched Emilia Perez? If yes, what's your honest opinion about the movie? If not, do you believe the Oscars are starting to be biased with their awards? Let us know your answer in the comments. For more interesting content, like and subscribe to this channel. You can also watch the other videos on your screen.